Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Sunday.
That's right.
I have my much more hair gifted.
I was about to say that, yeah. Hair gifted. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good term.
Something like that.
Better hair.
Yeah.
Your better haired
hair
friend.
on the head, less bald.
Yeah, less bald.
Poor Randy. He leaves for a minute and he's getting roasted. But you know what they say? When the cat's away, the mice will play.
That's true. Yeah. It's been a while since I've heard that.
Do you have any jokes for me, Austin?
No. We were trying to remember when were we making fun of Pastor Randy? Just like right now with the hair jokes?
Yeah.
Oh, because like earlier this week, he's been out of the office. We were making fun of his jokes on Sunday morning. You remember that? About all the things that he always says?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's got his joke. He does have jokes.
He does.
And he says he's not a joke guy, but he's got his patented, vegetable jokes.
He doesn't laugh at them, which I don't
No.
understand. I laugh at my own jokes. I mean, if I can't laugh at him, who's going to laugh at him? So, but he doesn't.
You can't laugh too hard at your own jokes.
That's true.
You can't, That's
true.
Violation.
Yeah.
No jokes?
No jokes. I'm just like a comedian on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah. Pre-created jokes are not as funny as just like on the spot wit.
I am not witty, so there you go. But we do have Philippians to get into.
Yep.
We started a new series, and excited about that. It'll carry us through the summer. If you were not with us on Sunday, you can always catch that online on the YouTube channel. And the series title is Our Joyful Journey.
Yep.
Each of those words is really important for us. Our, which is an important word this past Sunday because it's all of us collectively as a group. We talked about that Greek word koinonia. And then joyful. I mean, every Philippians commentary, not every, but a lot of them just hone in on that word. And you know me, I like to march to the beat of my own drum a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely do.
There's some things in my life where I'm a little contrary. And so I thought, we are not putting joyful in this series title, but it was unavoidable.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. Warren Wiersbe. Have you ever read any Warren Wiersbe?
No, but I'm familiar with he's the one that wrote that commentary that you have downstairs, right?
No, he has, that's another, I can't remember who that is in the moment, but
I know
Warren
you're talking
Wiersbe,
about.
he's kind of famous for like a commentary of the whole Bible, and every first word of every commentary is be.
That's right. You had to read him in college.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, that's why I'm familiar with him.
Actually,
Did
too.
you? Okay.
Yeah, good speaker, gifted communicator, knows his Bible well. And his was Philippians, be joyful.
Yeah.
But it's all over the place. But nevertheless, it's throughout the book.
Right.
So we just couldn't avoid it. So our joyful journey.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give a little sneak peek here. One of the verses that helped to form that series title for me, or for us kind of collectively, was when Paul says to the church in verse 25, he says, "Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for the progress and joy in the faith." So this journey where we are making progress, it's defined by joy. For a variety of reasons, foundationally Christ, and then we're doing it together. So that's kind of where the series title came from.
Nice. Speaking of themes, if we're talking about the book at large, I've been doing some studying through Philippians because I have the privilege of preaching here in July, and in my commentary reading, I also was just made aware of the fact that imitation is like another key theme in the book of Philippians. I mean, and here you have the famous verse where Paul talks about imitating him as he imitates Christ. And then in chapter 2, where you have kind of this analogy of the humiliation and exaltation of Jesus. Again, he's giving that example of something that we're to imitate. And so we have this this theme of imitation throughout the book, which is interesting. Oh, and then he gives at the end, like some references about different people and laboring on with them. And so anyway, I just found that to be a fascinating theme in the letter too. So.
Yeah, that's good. There are a few of those themes that you'll hear repeated throughout the book and throughout the series as
unity.
We bring it out. Unity.
That's another one.
That's a big one. Honestly, in a lot of Paul's epistles, his letters, right, this working against division and trying to remind people that they are one body,
right.
For example. And I think that just goes to point out the fact that there's the paths to division are rampant and they're easy to get onto. So we got to fight for unity.
Yeah.
So, okay. So a couple of things I want to chat about real quick at the front side of things.
Yep.
We're going to challenge the church, and I forgot this on Sunday, so this is a good opportunity, but we're going to challenge the church to memorize a small section of Philippians. You up for that?
Absolutely. I actually got some memory verses to memorize. I challenged the team that's going to the Camp of the Old Mill with me to memorize 2 verses. So
good.
I wrote them on index cards and taped them to my computer. So I guess I have another one now that I'll be taping to my computer.
There you go. All right. So it's 4 verses, Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. Philippians 1, 27 through 30. And we will work on some ways to kind of make that easier for everybody to memorize. We're thinking about ways to get that out. It's like an index card, stuff like that.
Yep.
For the whole family too. So
it's awesome. I love it.
Kids can memorize these with us. Families can memorize them together, and we'll work towards that. So you guys, our Beyond Sunday audience is going to they're getting this first.
Right.
You guys have a head start.
That's right.
So no excuses for you guys. High expectations. And then the second one, this was just a background thing that I don't even know if I even said at all. But this letter to the Philippians was written from jail. It's one of his prison epistles. And so that's just another one of those context things. And when we're talking about joy, here's a guy who's chained up in jail, essentially.
Right.
Now he has some freedoms that other prisoners wouldn't have had, but nevertheless, he's in jail. He's very limited, and yet he's still content in all circumstances.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you some more context questions here?
Sure.
See if you have the answers for them. Just out of curiosity, do you know when this was written? Kind of in terms of Paul's life, like in Acts you have where he goes to Rome and is in prison. Like, is this, near the end of his life, or is this one of those where he gets to prison and then he gets out of prison?
He does get out, but he ends, I can't remember exactly whether he's in jail 2 or 3 times. But I don't believe this is his first imprisonment. Actually, it wouldn't be. Hold on, sorry. Let me get this straight. This is a little confusing because, like, we read in Acts chapter 16,
right?
He lands in jail there,
right?
He casts the demon out of the slave girl, lands in jail,
correct?
So there's an imprisonment there.
Right.
I mean, for all we know, this guy was in and out of jail,
right?
Pretty often. But anyway, so he was in jail there, and this is roughly 10 years later. So estimates, guys would estimate that he was in the Philippian jail in about 51 AD.
Yep.
And then this was written around 61 AD.
Okay.
Right, about 10 years later. And then I think it's like 3 or 4 years later. Cut me some slack there. But a few years later where he ends up in prison again and is martyred.
Okay, gotcha. That's helpful.
So
that's right. I do remember reading that. They do believe he gets out of prison here from when he's writing this letter.
Yeah. No, that's great context question. Any other ones before we dive into some application stuff?
Not that I can. You talked about it on Sunday, but I'm trying to remember. It's helpful for a location. So remind me again where the location of Philippians is at. Are we talking
Greater Macedonia? So modern world, I don't know. I can picture it on the map. It's like not quite Turkey. That's up near the Black Sea.
Right.
It would be west of that, closer to Greece.
Okay.
Somewhere in that region.
Area. All right.
Yeah, not Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My geography is not great.
Oh, I got a map here in the back of my Bible. I'll find out before the end. But while I'm looking,
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
All right. Sounds good.
So kind of one of the themes of the morning was just doing life together, fellowship in the gospel. And Philippians translates the word koinonia, which we talked about just briefly.
Yep.
They translate that Greek term, which is kind of a common one for English Bible people to know, koinonia.
We just heard about it at a conference we were at together last weekend.
Yeah, so it's
it's
a somewhat common Greek word.
Yep.
But in Philippians 1 here, it shows up and it's translated not fellowship, which is normally what it is. It's actually translated partnership here. I really think that's a helpful word to define koinonia, because there's this, we're together, we're contributing with a goal in mind. So my question for you is, what are the things that make it difficult at times for you? Or do you ever go through like seasons where you're like, man, I don't know, I'm tired, or I'm burnt out, or I just need a break, or maybe other things, you're uber busy, or et cetera. What are some things that make koinonia, fellowship, partnership, difficult at times?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the obvious one, and I think there's a reason why Paul hits on it in chapter 2, is this selfish nature that we all have to put ourselves before others. And so the question is like, what can make partnering hard? It can be difficult when everybody's thinking about themselves first.
Mm-hmm.
What can I get instead of what can I give? So that can be, it's like the first thing that comes to mind. And again, as I'm thinking through these examples, like I love your question that you asked at the very beginning, like, have you ever been a part of something that, you're bonded together with people that's like special, that you're working towards an end goal? And sports teams was one of the first things that came to mind. But for me, like, I have the blessing of serving in student ministry, and like I love the leader meetings that we have together on a Sunday, because there's something special about that group that's like hard to put into words, but like you're serving together, you're working hard together for something that's like greater than yourself. And so in some ways, like it invokes this feeling that's like hard to put into words of how special and much of a blessing it is to serve together. But that doesn't mean like as a team, we always see eye to eye on everything. That doesn't mean we don't come in with our own sinful nature and make serving together difficult.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is just kind of that selfish nature when I want to put myself and my interests before other people.
Yeah.
So
right. If your selfish desire supersedes the goal that you're working towards as a team, you're just not going to get there.
Right.
We chatted briefly last week, and I didn't mention it on Sunday this either, but kind of in my mind, one of the apex examples is serving in like the armed forces with someone, like, and we've got folks at the church who have been in that context, and I'm sure that was on their mind. When you are shoulder to shoulder in the trenches, working to a common goal, and you put yourself first, it's usually bad for you and for everyone else around you. And that's like life and death. Sports is a common one, but we all walk off the field and we can shake hands, good game as competitors. But in battle, it's life and death. Right. And spiritually speaking, this is spiritual life and death for us. So, I think that's a good example. For me,
what comes to mind?
Yeah, for me, I think it's two things. One, just the busyness, like, and that's something we talk about at home and try and like battle. And I don't know how well we do with it, honestly. It's on our radars. But when other things become more important, and then I referenced it on Sunday, just like my introvertedness. Where it's like I'm ready to like pull back, because I'm kind of drained or tired. Or sometimes it's been like a long season. You're just like, I don't feel like going there. But oftentimes, Rebecca said this last week at home, when you don't feel like being at church is probably the time you need to be there most.
I've heard that said before. Experienced to be true.
Yeah, and what I can say is, like, there's times, right, confession, this shouldn't surprise anyone, but maybe it does. Like, there's times where I'm like, I don't feel like being at church today.
Yeah.
Not usually on a Sunday morning, but it's like the extra things that, that are on our calendar. But I honestly don't know if there's been more than one or two, or maybe none. I can't think of any examples. I can't remember a time where I was like, man, I don't know if I don't feel like going. But I go, and I'm glad I was there.
Right.
I always come away feeling like, yep, that was good. Like, I benefited from it, and was happy to be there. Enjoyed the company once I'm there.
Right.
And glad for it. So, but yeah, introvertedness is one I think that can keep people.
Just like wearing yourself out too, be another one. I don't know, like being tired.
Yeah. And then I think I'd want to ask the question, why are we tired?
Right. I think that goes into the busyness that you were talking about.
Yeah, a little bit. Or we're striving after something that maybe doesn't have the significance that it maybe the church or the mission we have as a church has. We can be striving after the wrong thing.
Right.
But yeah, fellowship's important. How about I appreciated your reference to the youth ministry, right? Because that's a great one. And we had ministry fair on Sunday.
Right.
So maybe a question for us here to close on or wrap up with is why is serving together with another group of believers, why is that so important for us? Not for us, Calvary Bible Church, but why is that important for at least us as individuals?
Yeah.
Any quick thoughts? I'm putting you on the spot.
You are. That's a tough question. The obvious answer is like, it's right to, it's good. I'm just thinking through like, why is there, so you're saying for the individual, like why for me personally, is it good to serve?
I'll stall for you for a second because
I got some thoughts, but go ahead.
Yeah, you hinted at some, and one, I think when you're bringing thoughts and ideas to the table for, we'll just use youth ministry as an example, what you think should happen, you have to work together in a collective group, and you have to put aside some of your own interests, to use Philippians 2 language, to put aside some of your own personal agenda,
right,
and humble yourself in the group and submit to the group,
right,
and move forward as a group. So I think it just keeps us humble, and we're always better for that, I believe. So that was a quick one that came to my mind.
Yeah. So another one, and this is a good question. I'm passionate about this. I'm just thinking through youth ministry, that's like the world that I'm living in. And like one of the major benefits and blessings for me of serving is it keeps my mind fixed on eternity and what really matters compared to just the constant draw that I have to, material things, the world. By serving the church, it's a putting aside, giving like a weekend to go away and retreat is like putting aside some of those things that I, deem important and putting what's most important, souls and eternal kingdom building things in front. And so for me, it's just one of those things where it's like a good way for me to set aside my tendency to like love the world and keep my eyes fixed on what's really important, eternal building things. And I said this earlier about like the leader meeting, but there's also something to be said for me, I think, in terms of the blessing of like serving together with other believers kind of like knits you together in a really kind of special way. I mean, I think that could be said for just like the relationship you and I have, but then like for the relationship that I have with my youth leaders, like when you're in the trenches serving together in the good times and the bad times, there's something to be said about this kind of special camaraderie that is created when you're, serving hard for the sake of the Lord together. And so like, is it easy all the time? Absolutely not. But like, I wouldn't trade the times I have to serve in youth ministry for the world. It's just special with the team. And, so like, that's why I love reading Paul's heart. 'Cause it's like, I can, resonate with that to a degree. So
Yeah. Well, he calls it a partnership in the gospel.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's for the Lord's sake, like you said. It's gospel, oriented. That's the end in mind. And I think my last word along those same lines is we're just exercising the gifts that God's given us.
Absolutely right.
And so to get back to the ministry fair, right? And if you missed it, just reach out to us. But I was really encouraged because we had 23 different ministries that were represented there, and they crossed the gamut, right? From my beloved, I call them tech dorks, right? Like who they're so good with computers and they're good with like sound, like they know what chords do. They know what plugs into what, and they know how to pull things off of stuff and they're phenomenal. And that tech dork it's an affectionate, term. It's actually a word of life thing from my history. But anyway, so it runs the gamut from like, man, behind the scenes, tech minded, like those are the things I'm really good at, to, teaching, 2 and 3 year olds, to teaching, some of our senior saints here at the church. Like it's across, just across the board. And I think that's really neat. So everyone has a place, right, to serve in the church. And we're doing koinonia, partnership, fellowship, because the gospel's kind of the focus for us.
Yeah, amen. It has to be.
Yeah. Good. That's all I've got.
Yeah, that's all I have. I have other thoughts, but probably not for the beneficial of the for the podcast. So we'll leave it at that.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
You can save those for another day.
Yeah, I will.
Sanctify them and bring them back. Good.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, if you have any questions for the podcast or throughout this series, you can email them in to podcast@cbcmj.com. This is when Randy normally looks at me like, wow, really?
Yeah, does he?
Podcast@cbc. I didn't know that.
I won't do that because I know that. So
thank you. Yeah. All right. So you can email them in. We're happy to bring them to the table and just for the better of the discussion for the group. Yeah. I think that's all.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Great. All right. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.